Hi and welcome to Electric Design. Today I'm going experimental. In the next couple of minutes, I will reimagine how the Tesla Model 3 would have looked like if it debuted back in the 90s. So let's jump into Photoshop and have some fun with design. By the way, I'm Omer, an industrial and graphic designer, and you are watching Electric Design. In order to determine the conceptual appearance of the 90s Model 3, I'll have to make some assumptions. The major one will be the fact which I assume that the current Model 3 is an evolutionary design based on the 90s model. So, I'll do a sort of reverse engineering for the design of the current Model 3 in the style of a typical 90s design. By the way, I also redesigned the back end view, so stay until the end of this video and be sure you don't miss it. But before we'll go through the design brief, I want to talk a bit about the 90s automotive design. The 90s was the curvy and bubbly era of car design, a sudden shift in the automotive landscape that until then was characterized by boxy shapes and basically flat surfaces. But why did this major design trend came to life back in the 90s? The answer is probably related to the rapid development in CAD modeling technology. Thanks to relatively new 3D softwares, automakers had the ability to design a car in a much more efficient way and thus achieve a wider range of capabilities that was too hard to reach without the digital technology. And if you added it up with the development of sheet metal pressing and stamping, the sky was basically the limit for designers and engineers alike. 90s heaven. So, in the comfort of looking back 20 to 30 years, it's easy to assume everybody wanted to design something new. No more flat surfaces like you'll find on the Lamborghini Countach as well as the 86 Ford Taurus. Speaking of the Taurus, take a look at a side-by-side comparison between the 86 model I just mentioned before and the 96 model. And oh, how those two look miles apart. Almost a different kind of product. The 96 model looks like the design team bought themselves some soap bubble guns and fired all over the studio, and it resulted in a giant bubbly shape. And that's how the 96 Taurus came to be. I'm joking, of course, but hey, just look at it. What is these things my eyes are viewing? Well, I know it was revolutionary back then, but oh dear, this is too weird to be true. I mean, look at those Taurus police cars. They are so miserable and cute at the same time. I guess a fleet of those is the exact opposite of the Dubai police car lineup. The second element is the greenhouse leaf-like shape, which I personally really like. So I'll definitely keep that one and the fastback silhouette. The third element is the 3-section shoulder line, which gives the Model 3 a fantastic agile stance. The last major design influence I'll carry on are the head and taillights shape. Those elements will definitely help to relate the 90s Model 3 with the current one. But of course, as always, I'll use other cars from that era as an inspiration. Hey, if you like what you are seeing, please subscribe to the Electric Design channel. There's a lot of electric car designs and many more coming, so be sure to subscribe. It means a lot to me. And now let's move on with the design. I kept the froggy-ish appearance of the front fascia without adding too much graphics in order to keep the front as clean and roundish as possible. The main element is the extruded bumper belt running across the front end with the integrated orange light indicators, a theme I'll carry on to the back and the side profile. I tried to mimic the Model 3 headlight silhouette, but in a much more bubbly way, instead of the triangular shape of the current model. A decision I'll change later on. But as of now, I designed the headlights to look like some of the coolest cars from the 90s, with a body color housing and a couple of circular beams floating in the transparent space, like you'll find on the Ferrari Maranello, the F50, the Maserati 32100 GT and the Lotus Elise. And in fact, circular headlights in a negative space was also very popular, like in the BMW M3, Dodge Viper, Aston Martin DB7, and of course, the McLaren F1. But as I said, I'm going to revise the headlights design later on. Moving on to the greenhouse, 90s car featured huge windows and thin pillars. Safety regulations and sun cancellations weren't so evolved back then. You know. I created the leaf-like shape that resembled the current side window silhouette. Like the headlights, I'll also improve on this element later on, but I'm pretty happy with the result. It looks very 90s-ish as well as relates with the 2018 Model 3. And of course, I changed the back end to look more like a fastback rather than a sedan. As you can see, I placed the back door handle on the C-pillar as a hatch with a hidden handle inside. I took inspiration from the beautiful Alfa Romeo 156. Next up is the shoulder line. The side profile bubbly surface really makes the car look like a 90s sedan, and the bumper belt helps to deliver this message home. The shoulder line in the 90s version can be as near as crisp and elegant as the current Model 3. So I divided the shoulder line into 3 sections, but in a roundish style. The back section is the dominant of the 3 in order to solidify the back fender and thus balancing a bit of the roundish theme and give some muscular feel to the car. By the way, it's funny to see the panel gaps on some cars from the 90s. Back then, no one cared. And in fact, no one cares even today, except of some YouTubers and car journalists. And just get over it. I admit I was a bit uncertain about the taillight design. I kept the original triangular shape and the integrated charge port cover. I added some roundish graphics on the taillights in the shape of the bumper belt, and it's a pretty common pattern in 90s cars. And as I promised, I revised the side windows to have more of an angle towards the C-pillar, before it looked too flat and heavy. I also revised the headlights design by making it much more triangular rather than what looked like the 96 Chevy Malibu headlights. And of course, I went on with the body color housing and the circular bins in their parallel position. And now let's move on to the back view. Like at the front, I used the Dodge/Chrysler Neon, but only as the base structure. I stretched the greenhouse towards the back end because our Model 3 is a fastback, but I also kept the relatively low profile of the trunk as a typical 90s sedan would have. The major element of the back end design are the taillights. I kept the taillight shape of the current Model 3 but replaced the graphics inside to look like it came straight from the 90s. I used some elements from the BMW 5 Series and the Volvo 850. Another cool graphics I implemented is the Tesla brand typography. I made it look like it had been embossed out of the sheet metal at the center of the trunk lid. That's cool. And there you go, the Tesla Model 3 90s edition. Who said electric cars are boring? So what do you think? Did I get it right? Do you like the 90s version? Tell me in the comments below. I'm pretty happy with the result. I think it catches the essence of the Model 3 design quite well and definitely look like a 90s car. So I'm pretty happy. Do you? And don't forget to check out the Electric Design channel for more electric car design content. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.